Yo, what's good? It's your man 100 Grand Ross with The Rock Never Stops. The Detroit Pistons lose another one to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And this game was, honestly, it was very competitive. You could see Monty Williams working every last resource, opportunity, piece of talent that he has on this roster. But if there is something that I could point out from this game that I do want to acknowledge is that Monty Williams perhaps is leaning a bit too heavily on his veterans. And I want to dive into that in this video. If you enjoy it, smash the like button for me. Hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. Look, this has been a fun ride with the Detroit Pistons this season. I think a lot of us not only had missed expectations as to the outlook of this team, but I think that we also jumped the gun in terms of judging Monty Williams as a head coach. I think there were a lot of moments where we saw opportunities that were not taken, and as much as they would have been valid, I think many fans also missed the reasoning behind why he may not have been so anxious to do things like start Jaden Ivey. And this is a part of this overall situation that I want to talk about. One thing that I'm noticing from head coach Monty Williams is he's really enjoying having veterans. And if I'm 100 with you, every head coach in the NBA wants veterans. They hate young guys. They hate young guys, and not because they actually really literally hate them, but it's because they understand that they come with a lot of mistakes that will cost you games, that will make you look really, really, really bad to the media and the comment everyday YouTube critic. And so playing them, they put themselves at great risk for overall criticism, because the reality is for the NBA, you don't win without talent. You don't win without top-end talent. And nobody really wants to have to be the one to develop that top-end talent, especially when they're not necessarily an all-star level talent or an all-NBA level talent that really only needs a few weeks or a few months, or even with their mistakes, what they bring to the table far outweighs it. Now, Cade Cunningham may be one of those guys. I could see him being an all-star, definitely. And he definitely has the talent to where it outweighs a lot of his mistakes. But the hard part is when you're playing 2, 3, 4, 5 or more young guys who are probably never going to be an all-star. Can I see Jalen Duren as an all-star? Maybe. He might be one of those fringe all-stars. And I want to dive into him a little bit later on. Asar Thompson, I think he has really great talent. I don't know if it's all-star because it leans more towards scoring. And Marcus Sasser is another really good talent, but I don't necessarily see him becoming an all-star either. But all of them are starting NBA players. And then there's Jaden Ivey. Jaden Ivey has the athletic and physical talent of an all-star. Not necessarily the game between the ears. And when I say between the ears, this isn't to criticize if he is intelligent as a human being. What I'm speaking to is his ability to read the game at a high enough level that maximizes his physical tools to play at an all-star, all-NBA talent or level. And this is where I think coaches hate being in this position, because they have the talent and the physical abilities that justifies giving them the opportunity. And yet, if they aren't learning quick enough, they're going to cost them. They're going to make them look bad. And Jaden Ivey is one of those talents right now that is hurting the team, because I think he's a little bit out of his role that he is ready for. And I say ready for because a lot of times, a lot of these fans are saying, hey, you know what? Give him a chance. You don't want to hurt his confidence. He has great potential. But along the way, you have to realize that when he's turning the ball over in front of all his teammates, that hurts his confidence as well. When he's fumbling the ball, and if you don't see it, if you're not actually watching these games, if you're just reading the box score, you're probably missing it. But he has about 2 or more plays every game where it probably should have been a turnover, a really bad turnover. But somebody bails him out by diving on the floor for the loose ball that he dribbled off his knee, or pass that got deflected, or over dribbling and goes into a trap and somehow somebody goes in there and wrestles the ball away when it was about to get stolen. But he has about 4 or 5 or 6 plays throughout every game that just make you cringe. And it's tough because we want to see him succeed. I genuinely do. But I also think that, especially with the return of these veterans, that it's misplaced at this point. He's not ready to be a starting guard in the NBA. He's just not. And putting him in that position really exposes him and is not doing him any favors. But the problem is that there's too many other guys on this team deserving of those minutes. But here's the tough part that Monty Williams finds himself in. And I really want to overstate this, that it is hard. That you have veterans who are extremely skilled. If you listen to the post-game conference against the Cavaliers, J.B. Bickerstaff even pointed out he's got professional shot makers on this team. Whether it's Mike Muscala, Bojan Bogdanovic, whether it's Alec Burks or Danilo Gallinari, these guys are professional shot makers, along with young professional shot makers like Marcus Sasser, Kevin Knox, Cade Cunningham. And so when you have guys who are snipers, when you have guys who are knockdown shooters who may not turn the ball over as much, who may move a lot better on the court and far more efficient and already know what to do and have a far more cleaner game, well, it doesn't do him any favors. And this is where I also want to point out that Monty Williams may need to make another adjustment, which he's probably going to make a billion adjustments throughout this season, if we're honest. But the major one that I want to see is move Jaden Ivey back to the bench. I think having a steady point guard, whether it's Killian Hayes, whether it's Monty Morris, having a steady point guard who can not turn the ball over, get the offense into rhythm, and be a strong point of attack defender, which I don't know if Monty Morris is ready for yet, but who can at least be in the right place, not commit the silly fouls or allow, that guard to just run into them and force fouls because you're just out of position. That is going to go far further for this team to find success and allow Jaden Ivey to maximize a position he's ready for as more of a sixth man in the role that Marcus Sasser is being used against a second unit, far more than being a starting guard. Now, at the same time, I also think guys like Alec Burks are a little bit miscast on this team as well. Because when I see Alec Burks taking a last-second end-of-the-game shot that's keeping the game close instead of Cade Cunningham, I also criticize this move. Cade is that dude. Cade is the one that we're building around, not Alec Burks. Cade needs to get those reps taking those shots. We need to see just how much he can do or can't do. Now, I'm okay with surrounding him with shooters down the stretch of games, but you also need to make sure that these guys are playing their role, and that's to support Cade. And then, last but not least, Asar Thompson needs to be in the closing lineups. Now, I've been saying this over and over. I think he needs to be in the starting lineup. He needs to be playing about 28 to 30 minutes a game. Let him play the role of the Sean Marion, Andre Iguodala, the Swiss Army knife, who plays great lockdown defense. And to allow him to be the one, especially to close out games, that you can stick on the other team's best player and force them to have to go through pick and rolls and screens and all these different things just to get him off of the main player. Because Asar Thompson is a disruptor. If you watch this game against the Cavaliers, he completely threw Karis LeVert out of his game. When Karis LeVert was in the game next to Asar Thompson, Asar was stealing the ball from him, knocking it away, blocking his shot, deflecting his passes, forcing him into really hard shots. Really just took him out of his rhythm altogether. And in fact, Karis LeVert did the bulk of his damage when Asar Thompson was either not in the game or not guarding him. Now, if you can put somebody like that on a Donovan Mitchell, somebody who can actually match him, not just athletically, but have the size and the defensive acumen to really make it hard on him before you have to bring the help, I think it would have made a huge difference down the stretch. Anything that we learned from that Oklahoma City game and even past games where Asar Thompson has closed out games is that when he is that primary defender on the main offensive weapon, he is able to not just disrupt their flow and not allow them to get into a rhythm, but he actually creates opportunities for offense. He gets the deflection, the block shots, that 50-50 rebound that we expect Jalen Duren to get all of, and when he doesn't, It's an offensive rebound, as it was for Isaac Okoro down the stretch of this game. All right, he gets those rebounds, he gets those runouts, he gets those loose balls, he gets out in transition, he gets steals that allow us to get into transition, that allows us to score easily instead of having to constantly set up in a half-court offense when they've already scored on the other end. Because we all know the hardest time to score is when the other team has already scored and their defense is set. And down the stretch is when they lock in more than ever, which means that the defense is going to be tougher more than ever, which means you're going to have that much less of a probability of scoring. And so you need a disruptor. But playing guys like, I get it. Bojan Bogdanovic, he's your designated shooter, and he plays extremely well next to Cade. But having Cade, Bojan, and Burks is more than enough shooting. And to be honest, the role that you had Jaden Ivey in towards the end of the game was a role that Asar Thompson does better anyhow, standing in the corner, moving off ball as another guy is making a play, trying to get the offensive rebound or cutting to the basket and catching and finishing, and then being the lockdown defender on the primary scorer. Asar is better at all those things. So why not just play him? Why not make that call? Because the thing is, look, if Ivey's having a great game, not just shooting well, because he had decent shooting splits in this game, 5 of 7 from the field, 2 of 3 from 3, sure, but he had 4 turnovers, 5 fouls, minus 21 plus minus in this game, minus 21. He was not playing well. He should not have been in that closing lineup. And if you want to say, well, hey, he needs to get the reps, well, then why didn't you give Cade the ball to shoot down the stretch over and over? Well, shoot, why didn't you give it to Ivey? Because if you're not going to put them in that position, then there's no reason to have Ivey out there. You shouldn't be giving the ball to Alec Burks to take those end-of-the-game shots. Shouldn't be going to Bojan even. If you're going to play Ivey and Cade, let them carry that and use the other guys to space them out and support them. So I think the main thing that I take away from this game is that Monty Williams is leaning a little bit too heavily on these veterans, even though they're playing extremely well, and they're really the reason why Detroit has been in these games as of late. It's because of the vets. But you can't let that overshadow where this team is at and what their focus is supposed to be. Developing the young talent, seeing who the core is going to be moving forward, and then supporting them. But as always, I want to know what you all think. Holler at me in the comments section. What do you think about my assessment of this game? What do you think that they need to do moving forward? If you enjoyed the video, smash the like button, subscribe. I'm going to get at y'all next time. Peace.